Good evening, everybody, in my part of the world, in the African continent, and good morning to you, those of you in New Zealand that are joining us, and good afternoon if you're in a part of the world, of course, where it is still currently afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, to introduce myself, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Kerr. I'm a licensed immigration advisor for Australia and New Zealand, and I'm based in South Africa. A very quick and short history. I am a New Zealander. I lived in New Zealand for plus minus 20 odd years, and then I moved over to Australia as a lot of young New Zealanders do, especially way back when I was young. I moved over to Australia, lived in Australia for 10 years, really enjoyed Australia, and then had an opportunity in 1990 to come to South Africa on a business contract for 2 years. Came over to South Africa, and lo and behold, in those 2 years, had an opportunity to join Network Migration Services as a seminar presenter back in 1993. And then in 1996, I had an opportunity to buy the company, so I did. I bought the South African rights to Network Migration. And bottom line is I've been doing this in this field for plus minus 30 years now. In fact, it was 30 years in April. I've lived in South Africa for those 30 years. And we immigrate. We've just touched on about 15,000 families that we've immigrated over those 30-year period. For those of you who want to be assessed for Australia and New Zealand, thank you, Peter, for answering Gerrit. Peter's 100% right. Peter's our New Zealand MD. You're going to meet him in a minute. And, you know, software engineer, no problem at all, and teacher, big demand. In fact, both of those occupations are in big demand. So if you want to be assessed, the assessments are free. And then if you want to have a consultation, either face-to-face in our offices in Johannesburg, or of course over Zoom, Skype, Teams, or Google Meet, then they're also free. So Gerrit, in your case, and in fact anybody's case that's listening tonight, we have about 160 registered for tonight. In your case, please just send us a CV, and we will of course send you the assessments with the procedures, the processes, the costs, the timeframes, etc. And then if you want to have a chat about that afterwards, even if you end up using Network Migration Services, our consults are free. So I impart all the knowledge I've gained over the past 30 years with my outstanding group and team of people that work with me to you in those emails and, of course, that consultation. So, you know, you might as well use them. And then, of course, if you decide to use us to immigrate you, all well and good. And if you decide to use another agency, again, all well and good. Just be careful who you use and understand, of course, what you're paying for if you're going to use another agency. And also, you can go ahead and do it yourself as well. So, as I said, send me the CV. Thank you, Ruan, for putting up my email address, andrew@networkmigration.com. And thank you also officially to Ruan. Ruan is head of our marketing. Ruan Lowe, he runs our marketing division in the company. Thank you for Peter for joining at 6 a.m. in the morning in New Zealand or just after. So thank you as always. We do these webinars every 3 weeks. Thank you for joining us, Peter. Peter is our New Zealand MD. Peter's been living in New Zealand for plus minus 6.5, 7 years now, and has been running the company over there for that period of time. Thank you, Liz, also for joining us tonight. Liz may be logging off soon because we are scheduled for load shedding in a minute. So if the lights go dark, I do have a torch beside me here, but we're scheduled for load shedding in South Africa about 8 o'clock tonight. I'm not going to explain what load shedding is. Just Google it. And clearly, if you're not living in this country, you'll be able to find out. But clearly, if you are living in this country, we are well aware of what load shedding is. Tonight's going to be, I'm going to try and knock it over in plus minus 40 minutes because I'm going to get to the point very quickly tonight. It's a little chilly here in Joburg. Not that that's a reason for knocking it short, but I really want to just get concise and to the point. Just a big thank you, as always, to all our service providers. You know, you can see some of them on the front slide there. We have basically 3 divisions within Network Migration. We have my division, if you like, which is the visa processing division, where myself and my file managers work with you guys on, of course, the preparation and submission of all the types of visas that you're going to require into Australia and or New Zealand. We then have the relocation division, which is run by Rose Nightingale. Rose is the person to contact regarding flights and furniture and pets and shifting money and opening bank accounts and meeting at airports and selling cars and all this type of stuff, etc. And then, of course, we have the job search division, which is run by Peter Lemmer in New Zealand. Peter's got 3 colleagues that There we are. No, hold on. Just tell me when you can see me.
There's a little bit of a delay, so it'll be a few seconds after you started. But yes, you're back. Looks like
Okay.
You'll just have to share the slides on your screen though, because the feed is just your webcam at the moment.
I don't know how to do that. I did share them. Okay, so I'm back on. You can hear me, everybody. Hold on. Yeah, I know you can see me, but I've just got to share the. Okay, so you're going to please just run me through how to share the. So you can see me, and you can see the webcam. You can see the slide.
I can see the slides as well.
So can we just do it this way?
Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Because it looks a bit weird. That's all.
Yeah, we can see it though.
Yeah, I understand. Focus screen. All right, guys. By the way, everybody's hearing me. I'm just on the phone to Ruan. As you can imagine, everybody, our inverter was switched off at the office, and I don't know what Brightspark did that. But thank you very much. But anyway, yeah, I'm just figuring out how to share the screen properly. Do you want me? Hold on, Ruan. Okay. Requesting switch to video call. Can you see me, Ruan? Sorry, guys, just a little bit of issue, as you can tell. You should be able to. I just reverse the camera.
I'm just seeing your profile picture. Let me switch.
Now?
Okay, there we go.
So what am I toggling here to get this down to the bottom left?
I'm trying to see. It's very blurry. Just hold it a bit closer. A bit to the left.
What about that?
Okay. Go all the way to the left.
That one. Focus screen.
Yeah, focus screen.
Okay, but that now you've lost the slides.
Sorry, it is the other one then. So go back to the left one.
Unfocus screen. Can I just do it like this?
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
Okay, thanks, Ron.
I can see it.
Okay. Hi, guys. Sorry about that. As I said, somebody switched the inverter off at the office. So funds of load shedding. But anyway, you can see me, and I hope you can hear me. You're able to see me quite big now, but I'm not sure if you can see the slides. But let's jump straight into it. And once again, apologies for that. We're up to 170 odd now. So once again, apologies for the technical issues. Right. Okay. So I was just going through processes. I'm going to do Australia first. That's going to take 5 to 10 minutes maximum. Then I'm going to do New Zealand. New Zealand takes a little bit longer, of course, because it's based on, incomes and job offers and whatever. And I'm going to be inviting Peter Lemmer onto the screen shortly to talk about New Zealand. So let's just hide that as well. There we are. Well, okay. Now hold on. Let's go into share screen properly this time. Window, PowerPoint, share. Done. Oh, thanks, man. Ciao. Bye. Bye. Once again, sorry, everybody. We're having, I don't know what we're having here, but just those of you who are out there now, I'm going to jump straight into it. Can you see and hear me again? I hope you can. Let's just get rid of that light. Cool. Thanks, Andre. Right, guys, let's jump straight in before anything else goes untoward here. Right, I've talked about us. Those of you who know us, we've been around a long time, 30 years. I'm going to do Australia now, New Zealand in 5 minutes. And then if you want to find out about our relocation and our partners, please just contact Ruan. And sorry about the technical issues. Thank you, everybody, for staying online. These things happen. Right, okay. Talked about us. Let's go on. That's me a couple of years ago. Australia, thanks, Vicky. Okay, right, guys. Australia's huge. It is. I mean, we all know that. 25.5 million people, 7 or 8 major cities, beautiful country, very diverse, stunningly pretty all over the place. And frankly, there's not a visa that we can't do into Australia or New Zealand. So tonight I'm going to be concentrating mainly on skilled migrant, on how to get you in if you have a qualification for Australia specifically, of course, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to talk about business or family or specific, 482 work visas or whatever, or student visas or parents or whatever. If you want that information, please just contact me, andrew@networkmigration.com. So let's just jump straight in. I hope you're either on a laptop or a computer at home, or you've got your phone handy. Please just take screenshots of some of the pages that I'm going to be sending you, because they're clearly incredibly valuable for when you score yourself, or I score you when you send me your CVs, I'll be able to score you accurately. Then, of course, you can sort of refer to these slides that I'm showing you, or better still, come and see me or have a consultation with me. Okay, so this is the points indicator. There's 2 pages of this. Take a photo of that one. I'll show you the other one in a minute. The minimum of points required of 65 can tend to be a bit misleading. So when you do an application for Australia, when you come on board with Network, we will allocate you a file manager, a team member to prepare and send you what we commonly call a starter pack, which is quite simply a documentation checklist. What do we need from you in order to make this application successful? And it's across the board, yourself and or your spouse and children, if you've got, it's logical. Birth certificates and relationship proof and qualification documentation, and eventually police clearances and medicals and proof of your work experience, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll notice here on the first page that your points indicator is showing that for age, the cutoff age for Australian residency from a skilled migrant visa is actually 45 years old. So you need to be under 45 in order to do an application for Australia. And it's not when you start the process, it's when you're selected by the Department of Home Affairs in Australia and you pay them the processing fee for the skilled migrant visa, that's when your age will actually freeze. So Australia would normally take roughly 9 to 12 months, or let's say 9 to 15 months all up, depending on how quickly you give us the documentation required, unless you're a healthcare worker or a teacher. Stephen Stiles, one of our senior colleagues today, mentioned to me that we just lodged a teacher. It was about 10 weeks ago, already been approved, because teachers and healthcare workers have been put on a fast track list for Australia. So you've still got to have your qualifications assessed. You've still got to sit the English test. But teachers and healthcare workers are selected pretty much immediately by the Department of Home Affairs. So if you're a teacher or a healthcare worker, you're going to get this thing knocked over in plus minus 3 months. But if you're other occupations, it's going to take somewhere between 9 to 15. So you can see your age there. In Australia, 99.9% of the time, you're going to need to have a qualification, and that qualification must be an internationally recognized qualification of a diploma or a trade, a bachelor's or a doctorate or a master's degree. For Australia, also 99% of the time, you're going to have to sit the English test. Even if you're exempt from the English test, you might have a British passport, which means you're exempt. But because you're exempt means you don't get the points. So you're still going to need the points. So there's your scores for your English test. There are multiple tests you can do, but be careful which one. Let me tell you which one you should do, because some of it will depend on your occupation and who your skills assessing authority is. Okay, there are your points for your work experience. Clearly, your work experience must be related to the qualification you're claiming. And then over on the left here, you'll notice there's just some random points that are given out for state nominations, regional, and of course, down the bottom left, spouses English. There's the second page. You'll notice on this page, we've really just concentrated on specialist type of education. Plus, of course, if you have, if you're a single applicant, you get bonus points as well. And if you've got occupations that are on the on the skills shortage lists, etc., then you can also claim bonus points. Now, for a skilled migrant category, there are three types of visas you can actually apply for. One is what they call a subclass 189, which is what I call the blue chip visa. Live where you want, do what you want. The other one, of course, is a 190, which is state nominated. There are 8 states and territories in Australia. And if your occupation is on their skills list, they may nominate you. And if they nominate you, that means you sign a declaration that says you're happy to live and work in the sponsoring state, and you get 5 bonus points for that. And then, of course, you've got the new visa that came out in November 2019, just before COVID, which is called a subclass 491, either family-sponsored or state. I wouldn't use a family member to sponsor me because the process will take a long, long time, 6 to 8 years if you're using a family member. I'd still use a state on a 491 where you get 15 bonus points. But the bottom line on a 491 is you've got a caveat on the visa. The 189, the 190 are issued to you straight up, which means you can go and immigrate. On the 491, it's also issued to you straight up, but you've got a year to enter Australia, and for 3 years consecutively, the main applicant must earn just over $70,000 a year, and you cannot, in those 3 years, live or work in Sydney, Brisbane, or Melbourne. You can live anywhere else in Australia except those 3 major cities. So that's pretty much Australia. Bottom line is you qualify or you don't. However, as I was referring to, the 65 points can be a little bit misleading. Australia federal government, the Department of Home Affairs, selects every quarter, i.e. the last selection was the end of April. They published those selections a couple of weeks ago. The next selection is end of July, then end of September, then end of January, then end of April again, and so on. So 4 times a year. Whereas the states, as of the 1st of July, are allocated certain numbers that they can sponsor by federal government. So they might say, right, we're going to, Australia takes close to 200,000 people a year. And in fact, they're talking about taking more in the next calendar year, or their tax year, which starts on July 1st. So the time is right to get an application in for Australia. But just be careful, because giving you an example, in the January selection, pretty much every tradesman was selected on 65, but accountants and software engineers and developer programmers were selected on 80s and 85s. So be a little bit careful. Just because you're on 65 doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to be selected. It will be occupational dependent, and I'll be able to run those through with you when I see you or consult with you. Okay. Okay, so Boniface, that's fine if you're a qualified geography teacher. Depending on your age, you'll probably qualify for both countries. So that's Australia. Processing times, as I said, unless you're teacher or healthcare, somewhere between 9 to 15 months. Contact me, send me the CVs, let me know your basic details. By the way, on modern CVs, you don't generally have your ages. So in just a separate paragraph, please give me the ages of everybody going and the structure of your family. I'm 42, for example. My wife is 36, and we have a 9 and a 6-year-old. And I need to know that to advise you correctly on the types of visas that your spouses and children would be receiving. All right. So that is Australia. Let's jump through to the Kiwi land of the long white cloud, land that is going to have a major national election in October. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I hope it goes extremely well for the party that I will be supporting. Right. Extremely pretty country, as we all know, one of the prettiest countries on the planet, 5.5 million odd people. Again, every type of visa we do, there's not a visa that we can't do for New Zealand as well. And again. Now, I want you to listen to this. It's about a 1.5 minute a video, or not video, a statement that INZ put together when they, the current Minister of Immigration, the Right Honourable Michael Wood, brought in the new accredited employer process. So just have a listen to it, and then I'm going to be inviting Peter on the screen to talk about what he and his team do in New Zealand.
Where no New Zealanders are available for a job, employers can hire a skilled migrant worker using the Accredited Employer Work Visa, or AEWV. Before inviting a migrant to apply for an AEWV, employers must become accredited with Immigration New Zealand and complete a job check for the role they want to fill. This means migrant workers can have more confidence about the role they're coming to New Zealand for. To gain accreditation, an employer must be a genuine business in a good financial position and have no recent history of breaching employment or immigration law or business standards. The job check confirms that the job pays the market rate, and the terms and conditions of the contract comply with New Zealand's employment standards. Before applying for a job check, employers need to advertise most roles to prove there are no New Zealand citizens or residents available for the job. After an employer's job check has been approved, you will be sent an email containing a link and a job check token. This means you can access the online portal and apply for your visa. The application process is all done online, where you will fill in your details and upload supporting documentation. Immigration New Zealand will check if you meet the requirements for the AEWV and that you have the skills and experience the employer is seeking. Once you are employed, your employer must provide you with information to help you settle into life in New Zealand and give you time to complete Employment New Zealand's online modules on employment rights while you are at work. The AEWV is designed to ensure only good employers can hire migrant workers and helps prevent migrant exploitation. More information about the AEWV is on our website.
Take a screenshot of that page. Good morning, Peter.
Hi, good evening, Andrew, and everybody in South Africa.
Yeah, having a bit of fun over here, as you could see earlier. But anyway,
you see that in the background? That's called a light. It's got electricity, not the sun.
Smart ass. All right, mate. Floor's yours. Please tell them how the New Zealand team works.
Yeah. Okay. Hi. Welcome, everybody. We're the New Zealand team. We're the team that takes you through the whole job search training and the relocation portion of our services that we offer. Now, job search training consists of 4 modules, which we take you through. And those 4 modules, the first module are Pillar 1, where we search engine optimize your profiles, your social media profiles, or specifically LinkedIn. And we help you set that up correctly and professionally. Then the second module is where we go and we then teach you how to connect with the correct people and who to connect with and how to connect with them. And there's a few methods to make it easier to connect with people. Third module is how to market and brand yourself. And that's quite important in the whole process for your name to sort of be being put out there. And the fourth module, which I think is sometimes the most important module, is the interview training and the culture training of New Zealand, because they're totally different from South Africa to New Zealand. And it's much more personality based and team and culture fit based. So all our training, we have video training sessions because of load shedding. You can do it at your own time. And then after the videos, I review what you've done. And when we go through the process and I retrain you on each of those modules. And everything is done face to face. So I sit this time in the morning training people now on Pillar 1, 2, 3, or 4. What we also do is that we have, before you leave before you leave either for a visitor's visa to come and job search, or when you've got your work visa, we have a session with you where we help plan your journey before you leave, how to wrap up your life in South Africa or whichever country you're in the world. And then when you land on shore, we have a meeting as well on shore to help you settle in better. So I don't know of any other immigration agent who spends this amount of time just helping you job searching, networking. We introduce you to recruiters in certain industries only where we've got good relationships. If they find if they have something for you, they'll assist you. But we take the personal attention, and I don't know of any other immigration agent that spends all this time. And what happens is that quite soon after you've signed up with us, we start this job search training. And from all this job search training, the success rate is actually quite high. After COVID, through the 2 COVID years, we kept training our clients. And as the borders opened in August last year, in 3 months, 160 of our clients had job offers already. So it's a very successful process. It gets you out there networking, meeting the right people, and having discussions with people and setting up coffee meetings. If you had to come on a job search visitor's visa, you've already set up your own coffee meetings with people. So you come across much more confident than like a deer in headlights coming here saying, "Ooh, what do I do now?" kind of thing. So we hold your hand all along the way. I've got a team of 2 ladies behind me who help and support. We set up the meetings. We make sure that we supply a lot of information, documents. Every email we send you has extra new information, documentation, which assists you on your job search or your journey from South Africa or any country in the world to New Zealand. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I mean, just to sort of a follow through on that for everybody's perspective before Peter goes. I mean, all Peter's done in the past 6.5 years that he's been there is refine and develop this job search process. So he's being a little bit of humble when he says he doesn't know any other agencies that do what we do, because there isn't any. As an agency that's been around for a long time, we've realized that Peter is actually a good friend of mine, and he was a senior MD of his own organizations before he immigrated himself. And when he decided to immigrate, we sat down and put our heads together and really thought this process through. And it's ended up pretty much developing, and not pretty much, it is the best job search training on the planet for immigrants that are wanting to go to New Zealand. Now, you don't need, if you use network migration as a whole, clearly Peter's and his team services are thrown in. We don't charge for them. But, some of you might be in a situation where, finances.
Are we losing you, Andrew? I can't hear. Can anybody just answer me to see if we're still in contact? Okay, so if everybody can hear me, what Andrew's trying to say is that if you don't want to, if you want to test the waters, as I say, and you only want to do the job search training initially, what you can do is you can sign up just for our job search training portion of the business. So that's $1,250, where we take you through the whole job search training process. And we give you all the relocation information as well. And we help you in this whole process of moving through this whole process. And what happens then is if you, let's say, successfully find a job and then you want to go utilize our visa service, we subtract the fees that you've paid us to do the job search training. We'll subtract that off Andrew's fees. So it's not that you're paying this and then you have to pay Andrew. It gets subtracted off the fees. And our process is very proactive. It's a very positive process. What I find with my clients who are just applying for jobs the whole time, they're becoming very depressed and very negative because the whole time you're just getting rejection after rejection after rejection. You think, well, this is not going to work. The thing about networking on LinkedIn is it's a positive process. You see your numbers grow, your first degree, your second degree connections, you see those grow. People start talking to you, yes, hi, how can I help? You start setting up discussions with people in New Zealand. I teach you what to say to get these discussions going. So it's a very positive process. You feel very positive with the feedback you're getting when you're talking to people. The feedback you get from them is positive as well. Yeah, I've got this friend that I can connect you with on LinkedIn. Connect with him. They refer you on. I mean, there's a big market that they call the tip of the iceberg is only what you see on Seek. Below that is the informal market of where jobs get sent out via just people referrals within companies, where they're looking for somebody that they trust. So that market is what we teach you to work in, and that's about 80 to 90% of the market, where you get to make friends with somebody in a company. That person refers you to the boss, and the boss says, oh no, I like this guy, and they offer you a job. So it's a massive market that we tap, other than what just the Seeks and those type of things do.
Can you see me, Peter,
back
now?
again?
Yeah, I think I'm back.
They heard me while you were away. I was.
No, thank you. Because God knows what happened there. We just lost connection completely. So I've gone back off my dongle back to the office inverter. So I think we're fine. So thank you so much, Peter. Can you see? You can see me and the screen.
Yes. So
okay, cool. All right. Well, then I'll just continue, mate. I'll let you. You've clearly got a busy morning ahead of you, and we'll chat your time tonight.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Keep well. Bye, everybody.
Cheers, bud. Ciao. Bye. Right, guys. We're back to sort of. I'm not going to touch anything, but you can see me, big, I'm assuming, and the screen. So let's just jump through to the requirements for the accredited employer's work visa. All right. So now, accredited employer's work visa is not points tested. Okay, it is based on you receiving a job offer, or the main applicant receiving a job offer that meets the requirements of the ANSCO code. ANSCO stands for Australia, New Zealand Standard Classification of Your Occupation. And there's the financial requirements staring at you. Occupations with a skill level 1, 2, or 3, which is a lot of you will be under 1, 2, or 3. Once you receive a job offer in New Zealand, it must be clearly from an accredited employer. And by the way, there's over 15,000 of them. So not difficult to find an accredited employer in your area usually, but you must get a minimum salary of $29.66, which, as you can see, is just under $62,000 a year. Once you get that job offer, you'll be issued with a 3-year visa. Now, the main applicant's visa is always linked to the company. Spouse gets an open-ended visa. However, from the 31st of May, the spouse, if he or she wants to go to work, must also get a job offer with an accredited employer, and also at a minimum $29.66 an hour. I don't necessarily agree with that change. I'm not sure that change will stay in later this year because I think it hurts small businesses personally. But the minister made the change, and he is the boss, so you've got to follow what he does. And then, of course, for ANSCO skill level 4 and 5, now these are usually occupations that don't require, you don't need a qualification to get into New Zealand, but these are what we would deem as perhaps a lower skilled occupation. And because it's a lower skilled occupation, immigration have put the bar higher. So you've got to get nearly $45 an hour, and it would be extremely unlikely that in a lower skilled occupation you would be offered $92,000 a year. Extremely unlikely, if not virtually impossible. So that's why most of you will probably fall under 1s to 3s. And if you are on an ANSCO 4 to 5, and you get less than 44, you can still get in on your work visa, but you'll have no pathway to residency from that. And these are the sorts of things that I can, of course, explain to you as and when I consult with you. Once you get in, you're given a 3-year work visa normally. Your spouse gets an open-ended visa, provided he or she gets a job, of course, with an accredited employer at $29.66. If you have children younger than 5 years old, they'll be given visas that are linked to the parent or one of the parents, the main applicant. They can still be with you, of course. They can stay with you, etc. But if they're 5 or over, they'll be given student visas because we start school in New Zealand at 5 years old. Now, you're now in New Zealand. You're settled. You're saying, right, what is my pathway to residency? Well, potentially you have 4 of them. One is from this green list, which came out last year, linked directly with the accredited employer's work visa. And there are over 80 occupations on the green list tier 1. Take a screenshot. Okay. These, green list tier 1. Green list tier 2 occupations. There's green list tier 1. Green list tier 2 occupations are there as well. Now, if you're on green list tier 1 and you have the correct qualification for green list tier 1, and you get a job offer that meets the requirements of green list tier 1, then you can do a straight to residency application, provided you're all your documents in order. For example, you would have needed to do the English tests unless you're exempt. Now, green list tier 1 applications take 4 to 8 weeks, straight to residency. So if you are on this previous list, excuse me, I'm going the wrong way. That one, you should have taken a photo. Well, if you are on that list, and you're prepared, if you need to sit the English tests, then when you get the job offer, we can bypass the work visa, which will actually save you money. You'll be landing in New Zealand as a resident, or if you're already there finding the job, of course, you'll be lodging the application straight to residency. So no, that I must admit, I do actually like. I like that green list tier 1. Green list tier 2, you're issued with a 3-year visa, and it's the old work to residence visa under the old policy, where you work for the company for 2 years, and after 2 years, then you do your residency application, okay? And there's some extra occupations that were added to green list tier 2 from March. So please take a screenshot of that. By the way, I talk about qualifications. Australia, 99% of you are going to need one. In New Zealand, at this point, you don't necessarily need to have a qualification. You will be deemed qualified by the work experience you've got, depending on, of course, the ANSCO code you're claiming. So if it's an ANSCO 1, for example, you would need 5 years relevant work experience if you don't have the degree in most cases. And if it's an ANSCO 2 or 3, you would need 3 years work experience in lieu of the qualification. But what New Zealand does is they'll actually take those years of work experience you're claiming away from you. So you couldn't claim them when it comes to scoring on SMC, skilled migrant category, which I'm going to show you in a second. This is a list of healthcare sector roles. It says going to be added to green lists. They weren't added 3 weeks ago. They now are. All right. So I'm just going to take out the word going. Ruin, if you are remembering that, we can do it in the morning. Anyway, so as you can see, right from, chiropractors and addiction practitioners through to whatever a sterile process technician does. Interesting occupation. Anyway, so that's your green list tier 2 occupations. Quite a lot of them, clearly. And so that's green list tier 1, pathway to residency, green list tier 2, pathway to residency, or high income. If you're in IT, well, you'll notice back here, excuse me, let me just go backwards. If you're earning $123,385.60, which is double the minimum wage, and you're earning that for 2 years, then you get a high income residency application. You don't need points test. You don't need, you just need the salary, 123. A lot of our professionals are actually getting that or getting a little bit higher than that. So it's automatic residency after 2 years. You pay the residency fee after 2 years, okay? And then the last one is this one, which is skilled migrant category. The points from skilled migrant in February went up from 160 to 180. And that's currently the way that they are working. The current Minister of Immigration is talking about a new 6-point process, which has not been legislated yet. So don't panic about this yet. And as you're probably aware, there's a general election coming up in October in New Zealand. So I'm not 100% certain whether that will be brought in or whether it'll stay or whatever, etc., even if it is brought in. But we have not had any legislative instruments from government on that yet. It has been worked on. Certainly, we've got some basic understanding of how it'll work, but it'll be a new 6-point process. So don't worry about that at this stage. And bottom line, it hasn't been launched yet. So if you want to get in, while it hasn't been launched, then I would suggest we got the applications underway as soon as possible. Okay, so that's first page of course, the category points indicator. You'll notice here on the second page when I show you that the age limit for New Zealand is actually 56. So up to and including the age of 55, you can still do an application to New Zealand. Somebody asked me earlier in one of the questions, it was, I think she was 53, but her husband was clearly over 56. That doesn't matter. I mean, as long as the main applicant is under 56, then your spouse can be any age, even if they're over 56 years old. It doesn't matter. You get points for qualifications if you have them. Remember, you don't necessarily need them. You get bonus points, which are all here as well. You get offered if your spouse gets a job offer at the relevant salary and on the accredited employer work visa list. Of course, you can claim 20 points. Partners qualifications, of course, you can get 10 or 20. And I put this in here because if no qualification, you may need to upgrade. So New Zealand will let you in based on your work experience. And if you're not on 123,000 and you're not on green list tier 1 and tier 2, then I might be saying to you, well, listen, while you're in New Zealand, to hit this 180 points, you need to do a course or two, up to like equivalent of the South African N4, N5, N6, just in order to claim, or N7 or 8, in order to claim 40 or 50 extra points. So the bottom line with migrating to New Zealand is based on why would it fail? It'll fail for 3 reasons. You fail the medical. So if you do have a medical condition, you need to tell me about it clearly. Just remember what the next slide is. Let's just come back to the other points test here. Excuse me. There we are. You fail the medical, you fail the criminal record check, or you fail to get a job. This is why, and we were in the middle of talking about why Network has spent this time and effort, and Peter, thank you, Peter, for covering while I was offline, why we have a job search division. And it's not just a division, as you know from listening to Peter now, that just sends you a link or two. Okay, it's not this division where it says, pay us our money, and when you get a job, by the way, come back and see us. Okay, we will work hand in hand with you, no matter how long it takes, to try and help you find work in New Zealand. Some of our clients will get jobs while they're offshore. Some won't. Some will need to be prepared to travel to New Zealand. And as you can see from this slide on stage 2, we've put that there. You might need to travel to New Zealand to get a job, because if you're healthy, you don't have a major criminal record, then the only reason this has failed that you don't get a job. And if it was me and I was committing to this process and, of course, the expenditure of this process, I promise you, if I had to travel to New Zealand to find a job, I would, because you don't have to come home. You can fly to New Zealand, get a job, and actually stay, because the work visa process, once it's lodged, is basically runs like this. So you've taken a screenshot of how the process works. So you receive the job offer today. The company that's employing you applies for the job token. That takes 10 days, and they do that. We can help them. Peter's done many of those for the clients in New Zealand. We've even had clients get job offers with non-accredited companies. We're working with 2 at the moment, and the companies are quite happy to become accredited, because it's not that onerous nowadays to become accredited, and it's not that expensive. It's about $740 for a company to become accredited, and it takes 3 weeks. Whereas in the old days, it was a couple of thousand, and you had to supply them with a lot of documentation. Now it's a lot less, as I said, onerous. So the company lodges a job token. 10 days later, they get that back. Then you submit the application, or we upload the application to the job token, and the process takes a maximum 3 weeks. So even if you're in New Zealand and find a job, the process will take no longer than 5 weeks. So in those 5 weeks, you're not entitled to work because you've gone in on a visitor's visa. Then you'd find a home and maybe schools for the children, et cetera, get yourself settled. And then, of course, your family can follow you. Okay, so bottom line is, if you qualify and you commit to the process for either country, then we will work with you until you get there, whether that takes 3 months or 3 years. We remain committed to our clients. I mean, I saw one of our young clients today, because of COVID and whatever, she came on our books with her husband when they were back in 2016, which was 7-8 years ago. And now they're moving forward, of course, with the process of getting in. COVID did throw some spanners in the works. I mean, and other things. I'm sitting in the dark at the moment. This is going to happen for the next 10 years in South Africa, and we're all well aware of that. Eskom, unfortunately, is not fixing the problems over here because they just physically can't. Excuse me. But we remain committed to our clients for a successful outcome. Our success rate is virtually 100%. I've done 15,000 families. I can count on less than two hands how many families have failed in these applications. So, as I said earlier, and we will tell you up front, if this is going to be relatively easy, we're going to tell you. If it's going to be relatively hard, we're going to tell you. So, I mentioned it earlier, we take this extremely seriously. This is your life that we are dealing with at the moment, and we take your life as seriously as you do. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really, really sorry about the logging off and logging on and the power going off and on tonight. This is the first time it's really affected me that badly. I hope it hasn't thrown it too much. What it does mean is contact me. I mean, you're listening to me now. You've got my email address, andrew@networkmigration.com. You can tell that I'm very open. I'm very direct. I will give you all the information on the planet in order for you to make this decision. And whether you use Network, another agency, or do it yourselves, then I'll be shaking your hand and wishing you all the best in the future. And clearly, if you are going to use Network Migration Services, we've got some problems coming, then we'd be honoured to assist you. So, as I said, not sure what's going on with everything tonight, but thank you very much for listening to me tonight. Once again, apologies for the problems that we've had tonight, but please feel free to contact me, call the office, send me the CV. Let's get together and let's show you how to do this. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening wherever you are. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, those who logged on as part of my team. Thank you always for the hard work you do. I'd like to leave by saying to my team as a whole, and those of you who are listening, thank you. I really appreciate. Vicky was sitting in here when I got into the office tonight, and that was 7 o'clock tonight. So thank you for the team and all the hard work you do for our clients. I'm extremely proud of all of you, and thank you for your committed hard work to not only for myself, but thank you for all that you do for our clients. And the comments that we get, I'm really pleased. They're mostly outstanding. So thank you very much, guys. Have a great evening, everybody, and good morning to everybody in New Zealand. Have a great day. Ciao, guys. Bye.